Hey everyone, it's me, Donna. I'm back again with another 23andMe tree update, the new family tree that they've got going on. Well guys, after I did my last video on this, I actually was able to go in and input most of the information as far as the my ancestors and everything in my tree. But then, the other day, guess what? They completely wiped all that information out. Then they turned around and swatched my cousins. In other words, there were cousins that were on my father's side of the tree that they turned around and put on my mother's side of the tree. And then they moved people around. And not only that, which they did include new cousin matches, and in one instance it turned out to be where they've got the person, I believe it's correct, because this person is pretty closely kin to me and I know how they're kin to me, and so yeah, I mean it's working out okay on this side. But there's another closely related person that is kin to me, that is like my first cousin once removed in reality, because they're my father's first cousin, and on the tree they've got them labeled as a third cousin. So yeah, it's messed up bad. I mean, kudos to them for trying. I'm not knocking 23 trying to do this, and I know they want to be different from Ancestry. They don't want to completely copy Ancestry.com's model, but doing it backwards, just using DNA, is not going to work. It's going to mess everything up because there are too many unknown variables, okay? All right, when you're dealing with DNA, okay, and then you're dealing with the reality of people's family trees, if you don't know that other information, especially when you're considering the fact that some people, unfortunately, some of us had ancestors who were kin to each other, who married and bred with each other, therefore you come out with more genetic similarities with some of your cousins that make you appear maybe more kin than what you really are. And also there are circumstances where people can be kin to you on both your parents' sides, which is in my case. I have people who are kin to me through both my parents. Even though my parents are not related to each other, they do have common kinfolk. And so knowing, for 23 to automatically just throw these people on whichever side, I don't really like that. I would just rather, honestly, fill out my tree with what information I know, and then let them take my information, other people's information who are filling out the tree as well, combine those trees, use the DNA and the common ancestors, and then match it up that way. That is the best way to do this. Because mathematically speaking and scientifically speaking, doing it backwards, which is the way that 23andMe is doing it, is not going to work. It is just going to have a mess. Even with these supposed new features coming soon, as I have mentioned before in my other video, it's like you can click on, let's just say, I'll click on my father, for instance. It will have more actions, and then it will say either add relatives, and in some cases it will have like another thing that tells you can move the person around or whatever. But honestly, this is not really going to work. And especially if you've got people, all right, for instance, okay, my great-grandmother, Mary Frances Sherham, she did not have siblings. She was an only child. As far as we know, that's just how it was. But her parents had several siblings, okay? But 23andMe has got her with a bunch of siblings. She did not have any. So that's messed up. So that means somehow or another, the way they've got it set up, so they've got these other cousins coming from her supposed non-existent siblings. So that's going to cause me problems trying to get this tree straightened out. I don't know if it's going to allow me in the future to move these people, all these alleged siblings, on up, because they're more like her uncles and aunts instead of her actual siblings. I don't know how that's going to work out. So unless they can do that, it's going to be jacked up. I mean, I do not like this. I'm sorry. I'm grateful and I'm glad that 23andMe is trying to do a tree after all this time, because before in the past, everybody that, could do a tree, you had to actually have someone do a DNA test before it would start growing your tree and everything. That's what you had to do. Let me see if I can find the old tree. Crap. Hold on just a second. This crazy thing. Grand tree. Okay, let me do this. Okay, this is basically kind of like the old system that they had. This stupid computer will cooperate. It's where you filled out your information, and then your mother and your father could do a DNA test. Even though you could add them, you could say, this person was your father and that person was your mother, and it would even let you fill out your grandparents, but it wouldn't let you go any further than that unless people did an actual DNA test. So like if my father did a DNA test, then they were able to decide, what was his part of my DNA and what was my mother's part of the DNA, and then you could climb on up your tree that way. So that means everybody had to spend that money just to do a DNA test, blah, blah, blah. But in my case, my father's dead, so I can't do my father. Okay, and then my mother, she hasn't done a DNA test, so there you go. So that kind of leaves people out as far as that goes. Okay, so I'm glad that they are at least trying to do a DNA test, a DNA tree and all that, but I really think they need to do it the other way. They just need to let the users input their information and give the supposed unknown variables in the equation, and then take that information along with the DNA information and include them together in order to make it work, because otherwise this is not going to work. It's just not. It's just, and especially when they've got everything wrong and your relatives are kin to you wrong. There's people that I know for a fact are like, my, first cousins once or twice removed, or second cousins or third cousins, but yet they've got them either too close or too far away, But, which, I understand the new feature would help out with that once they actually make it available as far as moving them up or down. But like I mentioned, if you've got people that don't have siblings and they've got them with a bunch of siblings, how are you going to fix that? Like, really? And it's just messed everything up. And then, now that they've moved cousins around, cousins that I, had figured out were kin to me on my father's side, and that kind of helped me figure out, okay, well, who's kin to me on my father's side, and who's kin to me on my father's mother's side. And I was working my way on up the tree, and everything was great as far as that goes. But now that they've moved those cousins around and threw them on my mother's side, and I have no clue how these people are kin to me on my mother's side, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to, it just messed everything up. And then now, like, how am I going to input my great-grandparents or great-great-great-grandparents? Because now I don't know how all these new cousins are kin, and how it all, it's just very frustrating. And if they're going to wipe it out, just wipe the whole thing out and start over and just do it the other way. Because when you keep doing it and messing with it, and you're keeping the same system that's not working, switching everybody around is not going to work when everybody's wrong in the first place, and it's not going to be able to figure it out. What's the point? You're just going to keep screwing with it, and people are going to get more and more confused, and it's just going to be a big mess, But at least, I give them a thumbs up for trying, but this system is not going to work. It's just not going to work.